Yo, Beth, that shit crazy.
Welcome, everybody, to All Even Live exclusive. I am Barry Grant Jr., host of the All Even Podcast. To my left is the great Matt Catarizzolo. Down at the bottom, we have Mike Guido, host of Guido's Gridiron Blitz. And who we have on the show today is a Mizzou grad alum. She works for ESPN. Welcome to the show, Sania Blu.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here, guys.
Listen, we had to make sure that get your name right, because I did see a couple things out there that you know it was a little sketchy. So we don't want to start off bad and completely botch the interview. You know what I mean?
Hey, I appreciate that so much. The variety of attempts I've gotten since like growing up. Cynthia being one, and I was like, "There's no TH in there," but all right, we'll work on it. So I appreciate it.
Okay, Mike.
So, I think it's really interesting to know because, you're relatively young, as I can see. And, it's really interesting because so many people that are your age, our age, whatever, dream of working for ESPN, right? Or at least just being in the building. Okay. So what's the experience? Tell us what it is. What's it like?
Well, for my experience is kind of different considering I started remotely. And like right now I'm in the whole process of moving. Right. So, but I always start off in saying like, one, when I was younger, I never imagined myself working for ESPN. Like that was just not the road that I thought I was going to take. I grew up like in arts and things like that, dancing. My goal was to get to Juilliard. Later on, learned that wasn't my path. But as I started getting into sports and having the relationship I have with my dad, which like I've kind of put it in my Instagram post about working for ESPN and getting the job, but we used to listen to Mike and Mike in the morning every morning going to school. And I grew up around sports. Sports was definitely a part of my life. However, like that time, I was just like, can we change the channel though? Can we do something different? But as that dream sort of manifested into where it is today, it's insane. Like I literally have to still pinch myself, and I always tell my dad if we're watching the game, or my mom if we're watching the game, because she was an athlete as well. So I'm like, hey, that company? I work for them.
Got him.
Yeah, but I will be on campus I'll actually be in Bristol in a few weeks. So I'm super excited.
Wow. Good for you.
Thank you. Congratulations. It's been a crazy time right now.
Definitely. Yes, Sania, listen, my last name's Catarizzolo, so I definitely share your pain in name pronunciation. So believe me, I feel you on that. So just you highlighted your journey starting out as like sports was never really an early thing of yours. It was kind of the catalyst, just being always around it. But you credited your relationship with your dad and how sports was kind of always around. Is there anyone that you really take serious inspiration of to kind of set you down that path to pursue sports as a full-time career?
Well, speaking of my dad, since I already mentioned him and you brought him up as well, I know that he would get on me if I didn't say him as my number one. So, because honestly, he's a huge part of that. He used to want me to like sit and watch games with him, but he was the one who actually really kicked off this whole sports journalism thing. I knew I wanted to do something in communications. I didn't know about the field of journalism until I got into high school. But in middle school, during those Mike and Mike in the morning car rides to school, he used to say, yeah, so you're going to go to Northwestern. I live in Chicago. I've been here for a majority of my life. You're going to go to Northwestern. You're going to major in sports journalism, and then you're going to be famous, work for ESPN, get me a Ferrari, and give me tickets to a game. And I had to like try to like navigate his expectation of that a little bit. I was like, I can get you a cardboard cutout until we get there. But I don't know if that's in my tax bracket yet. But in terms of others who are actually in the industry, Maria Taylor, who I'm so fortunate to call a mentor of mine now. She's just her presence, her elegance, her strength, her work ethic is phenomenal. Yeah. Taylor Rooks is another one. I remember seeing Rachel Nichols. Rachel Nichols, I think, was the first sports journalist, like female sports journalist who I saw. And actually, I've seen men in the industry as well who are impactful. However, I didn't really see myself being able to occupy that space like I did seeing Rachel Nichols, seeing Maria Taylor, seeing Taylor Rooks, especially with those two, Maria Taylor and Taylor Rooks also being women of color, being Black women like myself. So I think those, to answer your question, my dad, number one. So it's on record.
We got it.
Maria Taylor, Taylor Rooks, Rachel Nichols.
Shouts to Pop. We definitely have to do that for you. You know what I mean? But you know, this journey is so interesting in regards to like us picking our careers going forward. Like, you know, we go to school, so many things change in regards to like your interests, you know, what drives you. When you were at Missouri, what kind of made you realize that, you know, I got a legit shot at doing this for real? Because there had to be like a light bulb moment where you're like, okay, I think I'm actually pretty good at this. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I've kind of had a mentality always that whatever I'm going to do, I can't do anything short of my best. So that kind of manifested in whichever way. So that was just my mindset. Like I do not come from a defeated mentality sort of family. If you're going to I don't care if you want to be the best lunch lady in the room, like you're going to be the best, you know, right. In that work ethic. However, I would say one story that I did, and it was my first ever sports story, actually. I was working for 𝐥𝐤𝐤, with 𝐥𝐤𝐤 8 News, which is an NBC affiliate in Missouri, where students work as part-time news reporters, producers, the whole nine. And I was on a news cycle and I hated it. And I was like, okay. I told my professors, if I can do a sports story, will you let me do it? And he was like, it has to have a news angle. So the story I ended up doing was, in that year specifically, Missouri sanctioned women's wrestling or girls wrestling in high school. So that was the first year that girls were allowed to have their own wrestling team separate from the boys. And I was like, all right, this is perfect. Like perfect, right? So I met a young lady, her name is Taylor Reed. We still keep in contact now.
Nice.
And she was a senior in high school. And she was the first one of the first two people in her school to go to state for women's wrestling at the time. So I wanted to do that story. I spoke with her as well as 𝐤𝐤𝐤, and she being a senior, everybody's looking up to her. She's never done wrestling before, but the story in itself was about defying gender norms and accomplishing something as rough and tough as the sport of wrestling. And I have a great appreciation for it now. With everything, you know, that people would say like, oh, you can't do that. You can't do that. And so fast forward to after the story, long story long, after I finished it, I was at a wrestling match covering another story and Taylor was there. And so I ran into her and we were talking, catching up and everything. And this little girl walks up and she goes, excuse me. She couldn't be older than like 12. And she's like, excuse me. And I was like, hey, what's up? She looks at Taylor and she goes, you're Taylor Reed. And Taylor goes, yeah, what's up? She's like, hi, I'm a girl wrestler too. I saw your story. Wow. And like, it meant so much to me. And that knowing that I was the one who was part of helping to tell that story meant the world to me. So then this was like the moment where I was like, all right, we're doing something. The young girl, I asked her, I was like, well, what are you doing? I know you're a girl wrestler, but like, do you know anybody here? Did you just come to the Mizzou tournament? And she goes, yeah, my brother's a wrestler. And I was like, oh, who's your brother? And she goes, 𝐤𝐤𝐤 Cox, who is an Olympic bronze medal winning wrestler from the University of Missouri. So my thing was, you have a whole Olympian next to, probably in the same household as you, but you were inspired by a story that I helped tell.
Right.
That was one of those moments where that reminded me, like, I knew I could do it if I put my mind to it, but that reminded me that it was worth it.
That's dope.
That's awesome.
You never know the actual impact that you have until it's told to you, really. Right. I think that's a lot of, you know, what we feed off of. You know, I think it's so cool how you talked about Taylor Rooks and Maria Taylor and Rachel Nichols, all really, you know, strong up and coming, and not in Rachel Nichols' case, I guess not really up and coming. She's been doing this for a long time, but really powerful women in this industry. And, you know, I can semi relate to that because, you know, you kind of choose a direction when you go into this field, right? You know, like for
Mhm.
me, like my inspirations are, you know, Colin Cowherd and Dan Patrick and, you know, the Rich Eisens and Max Kellerman and Will Kane and Clay Travis and guys like
Yes,
those
great.
are my guys, right? Like
Mhm.
all of those people like that, that's the direction I want to go in, right? So did you always kind of know that when you were getting into this field, you were going to pick this sort of journalistic lane, or were you saying, listen, I'll try broadcasting, reporting, anchoring, all of this? Were you open to things like that?
Oh, 100%. I just wasn't open to staying in news for the majority of my life. Like,
Right.
but in terms of whatever it was in sports, I wanted to be there. I wanted to, even when I came down to like deciding what I wanted to major in and what career field I wanted to pursue, I want to be with people in some sort of form. I grew up traveling and moving around a lot, so I thrive on like person engagement and storytelling. So when it came down to like figuring out, okay, are you going to be a reporter? What is that going to look like? At first, I wanted to be only on camera, like, and not because I felt like my face needed to be on camera. I'm really like okay on that end, but it was more because I knew what people like Maria and Taylor Rooks, like I knew what they did for me and their presence,
That impact,
and seeing someone, that impact. I wanted to make sure that I had the ability to help another young person maybe see themselves through me. So that's why I wanted to be on camera. However, it's funny that you asked though, because it's kind of shifted. So I originally first hated producing, did not like it, was not my thing, but I've been a strong writer. And when I started, it's a requirement for us to graduate at the University of Missouri. Oh, I'm sorry, I almost dropped my phone. For us to produce, we have to produce for a semester a sports show. And at the time, I was producing 2 sports shows through 𝐥𝐤𝐤 Sports. And when I started like kind of getting witty in my language and I really could make the story how I wanted to, and I understood like the power in the content that I was able to produce, said, okay, this is something different. All right. I'm okay with this. And then working for ESPN, where now all your roles are super on the production side. It's very rare that like you start off, you don't really, there's not a TV track. There's not like an on-camera track at ESPN. It's more so like people leave or they come in doing that.
Right.
And having worked with ESPN Daily and the production team, I was like, oh, this is where decisions are made. This is where the stories are chosen. Right. Okay, I like this space. So hopefully that answers your question. I'm super into all of it, as long as I can help tell impactful stories and still be with the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think I agree with you 100% when you talked about how much you value person-to-person engagement. Because I mean, in this industry, it's so much about connecting and networking and who you know and who you make an impact on, and more importantly, you know, people who make an impact on you as well. So it was something I'm really curious about is there one specific piece of advice from whether it was a classmate or a colleague that really instilled the confidence in you to take this career path, the distance to end up at a place like as esteemed as ESPN?
Oh, good question. I've gotten so many wonderful tokens of just like advice, knowledge, all that jazz. I would say the biggest one still that sticks to me is that your path is your path. Like in this industry, it can get very competitive. I don't feel like I'm in a place where I'm in competition with anyone but myself. And ESPN, like even the teams that I've worked on so far, they have been super supportive in making sure that we work together, right?
Right.
However, it's very easy, very, very easy to compare yourself to someone else. Very easy to compare their journey to yours, or say like, oh, I want to do that, but I'm not doing that right now. Like, what's wrong with me? Different things like that. Your path is your path. Your destination is meant for you specifically. And everybody has a different way or a weird way or a crazy story on how they get into this field. So just focus on what's best for you to make your own decisions. And even when people try to tell you like, that's not going to work out that way, the way I got here is so unconventional. So I would just tell people like, focus on your path and believe in it and stick to it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Now I agree with that 100%. Like, you know, we have conversations all the time in regards to like, you know, the panel here about, you know, certain paths that we take. And I say, listen, you know, everybody's path is different. You can still get to where you want to go, but you know, that road may be a little wider than somebody that has a straight path. So That's really dope. Now, Mike kind of touched on it in regards to who he looks up to and, who you look up to as well. But do you see yourself kind of taking things from them and applying it to your own, style, or, is your style your own? Because that in itself is something that is really important as well, that, we idolize these people that we look up to and we want to get into the same field, but we don't want to be mirror images of them. So,
100%.
What is your take on that?
Absolutely. I take as much as I possibly can in terms of all the wisdom and gems that like Maria drops every time that we talk. However, I am I'm really big in individualism. And I think because what works for someone else is not going to work for me.
Exactly.
And also, I think you have to be authentic. You have to be true to yourself. In our industry and social media, as easy as that is, like, you can tell when someone's not being themselves. You can tell when someone's not being authentic. But I think that people, especially when you're on TV, I remember when I was on TV on a regular basis, like I wanted somebody to feel like I can sit in their home and have a conversation with them. Like that's the sort of relationship I wanted to have with viewers who I then would, be like, oh, you're my friends. Like that's the sort of relationship I wanted to have. So when it comes down to being myself or like being my own, absolutely. Like there are certain like things I say on a regular basis that I know is Sania Blu. Like I used to start all my different when I was working with East West Football Network, and I had my Wednesday updates. It was, hey guys, or hey y'all, hey, or hey, Sania Blu here, and like start off with a joke or a corny line because I'm corny. So like different things like that. Individualism is a huge thing. And then you can only be one person, so why not just be yourself in that?
Nah, that's legit. Yeah.
So you're from Chicago.
Originally from the West Coast, but Chicago is my home now.
Chicago's your home now.
Yes.
Bears fan?
So look here. So
it tells you all you need to know.
I am right.
She doesn't want to say.
She don't want to be, but she is.
No, I see. I'm a realistic Bears fan.
Okay.
I am the Bears fan who will go into a straight argument with another Bears fan who thinks that we're the greatest. Like, no, we're not.
Right,
like,
right.
I'm the Bears fan who's like, what are we doing? We need to fire Nagy. What is happening here? But also, if I didn't root for the Bears, there'd be, a little divide in the household a little bit, and my dad is just not going to go for that. My mom either, just not going to. So, like I said, I'm originally from the West Coast. My mom and I are from LA. But she, for some reason, she grew up a Packers fan, and my mom is super into sports, like super into sports. Dope. Yeah. So she was a multi-sport athlete all throughout college. Wow. So when she came here, when we moved here, and my dad found out that she was a Packers fan, he was like, "Oh no, that's gotta go.
Can't work. Can't work.
You can't do that." So yes, as emotionally frustrating as it is, I am a Bears fan.
So you really think that Matt Nagy should get fired?
I really think that Matt Nagy needs to change what he's doing. If anything, I mean, right. The thing is, we have some really, really great pieces to this team, right? But also, and this is kind of a little bit of inside knowledge from Coach Hugh Jackson, former coach, NFL coach Hugh Jackson. I think he just signed with the college team. He and I got to develop. Yeah. He I think it was Tennessee. But we got to develop a relationship, and so talking with him and talking with my East West family and everything like that. One thing we noticed was, like, in coaching, it's important to have a relationship with your players. It's important to, and I'm sure you all know, especially considering that I never played football in a structural level like that. But I know I've been on teams. Like, I know at the end of the day, you need to have that relationship, right? And I think there's a disconnect between the players and Nagy and his approach to the game, as well as his approach to offensive calls, like his playing strategy. Because there is no reason why Allen Robinson should be as unhappy as he is, where you guys have to use a franchise tag on him. And honestly, where it's gotten to a point where like, okay, you're about to lose a fantastic underrated receiver. You had viable options on offense. You had a decently strong defense when we were healthy with Khalil Mack. But at the end of the day, I don't think that he has the right approach right now that the Bears need on top of a whole quarterback. I know Andy Dalton is going to be our quarterback right now.
That was going to be my next question to you. Are you sure it ain't just quarterback?
They had some struggles, but I don't think it's all.
I mean, listen, I'll be honest with you. I don't think Andy Dalton's an upgrade over Trubisky. I'll tell you that.
Oh no. Oh,
come on. Y'all gotta relax now. Y'all gotta relax.
Oh, Barry, come on. The Bears were 6-3 last year with
y'all
Trubisky.
Have got to relax. Mitch Trubisky is an average quarterback. Dalton is a little better. Because he's a vet.
I will agree to Barry's point. I think Dalton is a little better.
Yeah.
However, with the way that the offense is structured right now, they seem to work best with an athletic quarterback.
That's fair.
A quarterback who can use his legs, a quarterback who is not afraid to be able to scramble and then try to find a great receiver. And I think like that dynamic between Allen Robinson and Mitchell Trubisky in a way kind of worked out towards when it, not always when we needed it the most, but
right.
when we needed it sometimes. So I would say Andy Dalton's IQ for the game is better. He has more experience. He has a little bit more skill, but the offensive structure is going to be a little bit different because you don't have the athleticism. It's the age difference. It's a technique difference as well. You're talking about two very different quarterbacks, but it's going to be hard, period, for the offense and the defense because the offense is not doing too well. The defense is out there on the field more often.
Right.
It's going to take a little bit of adjustment because you're having a variety of different quarterbacks. You to go from Nick Foles to Mitch Trubisky to now Andy Dalton, like that. That's three different quarterbacks. I know the Bears need to win quickly, though. They need to do something successfully very soon, or else Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are about to see the door. So
yeah. I think you're right about that in regards to saying that this is going to be a different team that Matt Nagy has had. I think his coaching style is going to have to change. His scheme may have to change a bit. We're going to learn a lot about Matt Nagy this upcoming season than we've ever learned before because it's going to be a different dynamic. So I'm curious to see it. Definitely curious to see it. Yeah,
you and me both.
Yeah.
Well, the Bears were in the pool there were Russell Wilson rumors before those were quickly dispelled. Before all the allegations against Deshaun Watson came out, the Bears were kind of a team that was hovering around those kind of rumors. They now lost Kyle Fuller, one of their young great corners in free agency. So the window from 2018 when they went 12-4 with Trubisky to now, it's narrow. It's extremely narrow, and it's only getting shorter. And they're in a division with Aaron Rodgers. He hasn't gone anywhere. They're going to get they have a first round pick this year. Chicago is not really in position to draft one of these young dynamic quarterbacks like a Jones or a Lance or a Fields or anything. So they're kind of stuck in like football purgatory-ish type thing, which in my opinion is much worse than being a bad team or a good team. If you're in purgatory with no specific direction, question marks in several areas that include coaching and quarterback, the two most important positions, the two most important aspects of a football team, it's not good. It's really not a good situation for the Chicago Bears. But Sania, what I really wanted to ask you is, you say you spend the majority of your life in Chicago, even though you're originally from the West Coast. Talk to us a little bit about the pride, the sports pride for a city like Chicago, because everyone, it's in that big tier of New York and Boston, and there's and Los Angeles, but Chicago is right there, and they've had such an illustrious sports history with the '90s Bulls and the '85 Bears, and the Cubs recently break the curse. Just talk to us a little bit about what that city is like in terms of sports pride.
That city, this city is insane. Like I'm very fortunate to have say that I've lived in, because I'm originally from LA. So I've lived in two of the prime time sports cities in the world, but Chicago is different. It's a different, because it's something that you carry with you wherever you go. I remember when I was in college in Missouri and the Cubs won the World Series, like we had our own mini parade on the floor, And there were probably, I think there was like 5 or 6 other Chicagoans on my floor. You heard us. Like, you heard us. Just saying, there's a little bit of that crosstown rivalry too with the White Sox versus the Cubs. I'm a South Sider, so I'm obligated to be on the White Sox side. But it is so refreshing, I think, to see, especially as we get fans back into the stands and everything like that. But like, just a legacy. You can't, literally, if you tell a Chicagoan or like somebody who's from Chicago, even if they're from the suburbs, that your sports team is better, they're gonna look at you and be like, huh, the Bulls. really like, so just to kind of answer your question, the sports culture, it's awesome. You really, it's because you start out young, you in it, like, even though it took me a little bit to find my own personal interest in it, I still knew what team to root for. Like, I still knew. And then I'm a huge D Rose fan. So growing up and seeing what he was doing, I have like one of the first jerseys that my dad got me, because we're related through marriage, but blood wouldn't make us any closer. One of the first jerseys he got me was a Ben Gordon jersey. And it was, and like that 𝐥𝐤𝐤, like that era of the Bulls and Young Rose and everything like that. Those are moments that matter to me, and moments that will forever like stand out to me. And I think those also resonate with every single person who claims they're a Chicago sports fan.
Definitely. Now, let's talk a little NBA, Sania. The biggest story of the day is, Michael Jordan is going to present Kobe Bryant into the Naismith Hall of Fame. And that, to me, is, I think it's one of the greatest stories we've ever had, because, whether Kobe Bryant was alive, I think Jordan would still be presenting him. So, what are your thoughts about that dynamic between such a legend in regards to Jordan in Chicago and, the legend that was Kobe Bryant? Because you were from both spots. So, I think you could kind of shed some light on, the emotion and what that feels like.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's absolutely just, it's everything it should be. I was fortunate to work on Kobe's 1-year anniversary passing episode with ESPN Daily. And I don't even think I knew that how close Michael and Kobe were actually were. They were very, very close.
Like brothers. Yeah.
Like, yes, like brothers. Like that's exactly how Michael would describe their relationship. Like, that was my annoying little brother who got on my nerves, but at the end of the day, he made me want to be a better person.
Right.
And Kobe Bryant had the ability to pull the best out of everyone around him, not just in his competitive nature, but when he was even on his softer side, like Paul Gasol talked about that, even on his softer side. But I think that is such a beautiful like hallmark of their relationship, as well as I can't imagine anybody else to do it. Like anyone else who, and it bothered me a little bit after Kobe's passing that people tried to question like where he was in the top tier of stop it, knock it off. Like, Kobe is up there. You know he's up there. He's a top 10 player. Exactly. My brothers are not into crazy sports yet. They like games, which is fine.
That's all right.
We can teach them how to code and next one right there. But they know who Kobe is. Like they throw the paper in the trash can and say Kobe. Like that is what. So I'm sure it's painful for Michael Jordan to experience this way, as well as every other Kobe fan, as well as every other person who was close to him, his wife, Vanessa, his daughters. However, I think it is the most appropriate way to welcome Kobe into the Hall of Fame.
Well said.
I agree. All right, so now we got the soft stuff out of the way. Let's make you angry.
Oh.
Let's make you angry.
It takes a lot to make me angry. So let's see.
Personal opinion of mine. I think that the 16-17 Warriors with Durant, Curry, Clay would kill the 95-96 Bulls.
Oh my God.
I think they would kill them in every facet.
Mike,
you had me, and then you said the Bulls and you lost.
Yeah. You're
Yeah,
nuts.
no.
They would
No.
kill them.
No.
Explain yourself. Explain
Myself?
Explain yourself, and
Please.
then
I don't
Khalil
think-
will go in there.
I'm
Go ahead.
not sure there is a single player in NBA history, and believe I'm a LeBron fan, right? I like LeBron's my guy. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm not sure there's a single guy in NBA history that could single cover Kevin Durant. And nor do I think that you could contain Steph Curry.
Mm.
That amount of shooting would beat anybody.
Okay, but wait. We're also talking about Michael Jordan, right?
Right.
We're also talking about the Michael Jordan, and also
yes,
Scottie Pippen,
right?
Dennis Rodman.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
also talking about Dennis Rodman, right? Who
Yes.
Draymond Green wouldn't be Draymond Green
without Dennis Rodman. Thank you.
Like we're
Well,
also talking-
okay.
we're-
All right. Well, hang on. If we're going to make that argument, then let's just say that the 95-96 Bulls would lose to the 64-65 Celtics.
I was just about to say you're about to say the Celtics.
Like, because, and it's not about rings. It's if it's about, well, Draymond Green wouldn't be Draymond Green without Dennis Rodman. All right. Well, Dennis Rodman wouldn't be Dennis Rodman without Bill Russell. Or
You're moving the
those guys,
goalposts,
right?
Mike. You're moving the goalposts.
I'm not moving a goalpost. I'm
Yes,
making
you
the exact
are.
same argument that
You're
she's
moving
making to
the
me.
goalposts
That's all I'm
because-
saying.
Okay, so here's the thing. I'm only reason why I bring up that comparison is because the one, it's really hard for me whenever I get in these kind of discussions. It's very hard for me to actually like realistically try to put these two teams together because these were also different times, different
Right,
games,
different eras.
Really
different
hard to compare
dynamics.
cross-generational. Yes.
Yeah, like right now, the 3-point shot is like two. It's essentially like
shot.
how often people use it.
Yeah.
And Steph Curry, no doubt about it, best shooter in the game. He's proved that multiple times. He proved that just this week. So
Yes.
However, the grit, the tenacity, the play, the matchup, like is different with the Bulls. And I don't think in the league now there is someone who can guard Curry as well as there may have been on that 96 Bulls team, 95, 96 Bulls team. Their aggressiveness is different. And I don't know. Curry's also never played against Jordan. Like every player who has played against Jordan can literally tell you it's a different experience. That is a different mentality that you have to go into.
Sure is.
And it's not just Jordan. You got the whole entire team. That whole entire dynamic was something that you could not recreate.
Great team. Great team. All
But
I'm saying is
when it comes down to
that
shooting,
amount of scoring is a lot.
I was just about to say, when it comes down to shooting and scoring, I think the Warriors would give them a run for their money because that Warriors team honestly was one of my favorite teams at the time. Like that was one of my favorite eras just because I love the team dynamic that they actually built together. That was one of the most like positively enforced teams that I've seen in a bit.
Yes.
So, especially with like when Clay was at his prime, when KD, when everybody was working there, you knew people were making sacrifices for the greater good of the team. Scoring wise, yes, they will give the Bulls a run for their money. At the end of the day, I don't think that now to say that they're going to destroy the Bulls, absolutely not in my vocabulary.
Exactly.
5 games. 5
Oh my
games.
God.
Give me a 5-game series with them.
5.
5 games.
5.
So here's the thing.
You really
5.
think that Jordan's gonna let
5
them
games.
go to
5 games. Now, here's the thing. Okay, I want people to understand this for a second. Okay, so the Warriors were the best offensive team in the league that year, right?
Right.
They were the second, based on defensive metrics, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were the second best defensive team in the NBA.
Right.
So all I'm trying to get at is that the depth, the shooting, the defense of this team, I don't think, and I want to make sure I make something clear. I'm not talking about the 73-9 Warriors. I'm talking about the year after when they went 67-15 the
Mhm.
first year with Kevin Durant. I'm talking about
Mhm.
those, not the 73-9 Warriors that lost to LeBron in the finals.
Right. Oh, don't remind me. Oh,
I'm just saying, man, that Warrior team, I think, would crush anybody. They would crush anybody.
anybody today.
They would crush anybody today. But like, I don't know. You think who's a better team, the Warriors or the Showtime Lakers?
Showtime Lakers.
It's not. You can't compare. That's not fair.
I get it.
That's not fair.
I get it.
That's not fair.
I
You can't
not fair.
I get it. All right.
That's
all right.
like saying who.
Cap.
That's like saying who's a better home run hitter, like Babe Ruth or Barry Bonds.
Right.
You can't do that. You just can't do it.
Sure you can.
It's impossible. It's 30 years later. You're off your rocker. You don't know what you're saying.
Rock.
It is. I will say it is a different age and time. Don't get me wrong.
Yes, it
the
is.
Warriors team was dominant. KD is one of the best players, period. Like, I think he's one of the best players, period. However, just with the time was different. The defense, the Warriors would not be a leader in defense if they were playing in the same time as the Bulls. It wouldn't have happened.
More physical
Because
game.
also too, you have different players who are doing different roles.
Yeah.
Steph's role would have to be more dynamic than just a shooter. And he's not just a shooter. Don't get me wrong. His handles are ridiculous. You know, he can get a steal. He's a shifty player. He's smart. I am a fan of Curry and how he plays. However, he's not that big man who can tackle that offensive pressure that the Bulls were throwing and getting. We were talking about an age where you could throw punches in the middle of
you can
game.
hip check. You can
Like,
there's a
it's
lot of
gritty.
things. Yeah.
So I don't want to say this, like, again, just to let me clarify. I was a supporter and fan of the Warriors, the 16-17 Warriors, the KD Warriors. Like, I'm for supporting, right? But they are the pretty boys of this comparison. And I just don't think it will look too pretty for them.
They are the Backstreet Boys when it comes to history.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are.
Mike, did you say no one in NBA history could defend Kevin Durant?
He's crazy.
I'm not sure anybody in NBA history could guard Kevin Durant.
He's
The
crazy.
Dude,
NBA's
the
been
guy
around
is
for a
7
pretty
feet
long
tall.
time, dude.
He's got a 9.5-foot wingspan. He can consistently shoot from 35 feet out, and he moves like a guard. You're telling me that there is a single player in NBA history that could keep him under 25 points a game?
I'm not saying under 25 points, but you don't think Scottie Pippen could at least keep him in check?
I think Scottie
Eight-time
Pippen,
All NBA defensive first team Scottie
Pippen would do as good of a job on KD as probably anybody, but that doesn't mean that he's holding KD to 18 points.
Let's move on because this is going to be like a 3-hour conversation. Please.
Jeez.
Go ahead, Matt.
You just made me angry now. I'm just in a horrible mood now because of that.
Look, see, I still got the smiles here. I still got the
Yeah, see, she's still
break me.
good spirits. She's good, man.
All right, Matt, if you don't have one, I have one.
Go for it. I need to calm down.
You gotta calm down a little bit. So, Sania, the other big news today is that LaMarcus Aldridge retired.
Yeah.
And he was one of the vital pieces, I think, for the Brooklyn Nets. I think his leadership, I think his calmness would have really helped them in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm looking at it from a historical standpoint. Do you think that LaMarcus Aldridge is a Hall of Famer, 7-time All-Star? Do you think that he has a shot to get in?
I would like to say he has a shot to get in. I would like to say that, right?
Yeah.
I think that it is hard right now with the power players of this generation and of this league. Especially like if you were to, like, I'm young, I'm in my 20s, like early 20s. So I'm not going to say like I'm not young, but if you were to ask like younger fans and viewers, they would say no.
Yeah.
But that's just because they're not familiar with how great of a player that he is. I mean,
Right.
you just said 7-time All-Star, like you don't get to All-Star status for nothing, even though that's a whole nother conversation in itself. But,
Yeah, exactly.
but I think he can be a contender. I'm sure. Now, see, if Brooklyn went ahead and won a championship this year, I think he would have been fine.
Okay.
It might have been, he might have needed a ring just because of the level of talent that he's being compared to right now.
Gotcha.
That's fair. Yeah, I would have liked to see it.
No, that's fair because, historically, when you think about him as a power forward, he's definitely, his numbers stack up there. But do you actually put him in the category of other great power forwards? That's where he kind of gets lost, because you can name maybe 10 or 15 power forwards that you think are better. So yeah, I just wanted to, get your stance on that. So
yeah,
that's fair.
19 and a half, 8 rebounds, and not much defense. So
well,
it depends on.
He was a decent rim defender. He wasn't a great ball, but yeah, he
wasn't
help.
an all defensive player. So it depends on if you think that is good enough to get in, and maybe it is, but
I don't think right now it is.
Yeah, it may take a while.
Era, I don't think so.
It may take a while to get in.
Damian Lillard did say that the Blazers should retire Aldridge's jersey number.
I agree.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I
agree.
All right. Is it question time?
Yeah, of course.
I think it's question time.
Are you sure, Matt? Are you sure you don't want to get one more in before?
No, because I feel like this is gonna be good. So let's do question time.
Okay. All right. All right. Sania, we ask everybody the same question. Every person that we interview, we ask the same question at the end of the interview. Okay. Who is, in your mind, the greatest athlete of all time in any sport?
Serena Williams.
Nice.
Wow.
She didn't even hesitate. He didn't even hesitate.
Zero hesitation.
Sania,
quickest answers.
You are the first person to never hesitate on that question.
Is that our second Serena Williams?
That's our second. That's back to back too.
The quickest answers are the best answers. That means that it. There's no debate. This is who I think.
Right. That's respect.
Was it back to back? Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I respect that. I respect that.
Love to see it.
And I can't disagree. I can't disagree with it. I really can't.
I put this on my I probably post this on my Instagram story, like once every 2 weeks, like just to remind people once every 2 weeks. I even put a poll. And anyone who's like close to me who knows me, one thing I do, we try to come with facts. Like, if you're gonna make an opinion or a statement, let's make sure we bring in the context. You know what I'm saying? So I think I put on my Instagram, I said Serena Williams is the greatest athlete of all time, but she doesn't get the recognition she deserves because she's a woman. Prove me wrong. And then one of my really good friends was like, oh well, it's really hard. Because you got MJ, you got LeBron. And I said, team sports. Prove me wrong.
All right.
And we got it. We were just going through it. But yeah, without hesitation, I would say Serena Williams.
It's hard to beat 23 Grand Slams.
She
is. Yeah. And also
special,
while pregnant, even though people try to
right.
Wins the Australian Open when you're pregnant. That's in terms of like just I don't know, just medical history. Think of a harder feat in sports than winning a tournament 2 months pregnant. Ridiculous.
Yeah, and having had maternal difficulties before,
that's not talked about. That's not talked about enough. It's really not talked about enough.
It's not. And if you're competing as a top tier athlete, knowing that you are in a position, and I understand that men will not ever be able to have that experience. However, that doesn't, a sport is a sport. And some may disagree with me. That's fine. But a sport is a sport. You get out of it what you put into it. She put in everything she had, including her health that could have impacted the few chance that she actually was able to become pregnant. Like she has put in every single blood, sweat, and tears, not only into this sport, but in everything that she's done. Because she actually grew up doing a lot of different things. Her dad had her in so many different activities, she and Venus. But yeah, like I said, at the end of the day, I put a period after Serena Williams.
That's facts. I respect that.
Write it down. Make sure it's in the record.
Write it down. And make sure you put it to the top too. The fact that she was the quickest answer on the show's history.
Quick.
So
I'll take that one.
We gotta start tracking response times.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to do that because
she set the bar, man.
Sania just shattered that record.
Yeah, track it like a 40.
Yeah, right.
She had a
set the bar.
1.2 response
I was just
time.
about to say, I hope I'm in the one.
Yo,
Like,
she
that's
didn't
how
even let you.
I aspire to be.
She didn't even let you finish.
Unattainable.
Exactly.
Serena is definitely like, I think when you're talking about like women that rank on that list, like I think if there is a woman that gets the recognition for that title, it's definitely Serena.
Yeah.
Serena definitely gets, I think, just out of female athletes in general, I think she gets, you ask anybody who's the best female athlete, I think most people are going to say Serena Williams.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. I think she's already put that one in the book.
Best female
I think
athlete.
it's booked.
She's
There's
nobody
else is close.
Yeah.
Greatest, so in general.
She's top 10, period. You know what I mean? The woman or man.
I had her top five. I had her top five. I think I had her when I did this list a couple of years ago. I think I had her at number 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. I definitely don't disagree. She's like I said, I think me watching tennis growing up, she was my favorite because of her style, because of how aggressive she was, and the fact that she kind of did play like a man. And a lot of people didn't like that about her early on. Like, you would hear certain things. Oh, why she's so aggressive? Like, listen, that's the way she wants to play. That's how you should play. Like, there should be no putting her in a box because she's overly aggressive. Like, that doesn't mean that she wants to play like a man. She's just her. You know what I mean? So
I think that also, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Oh, no, go.
I think that also is coupled with so I always bring this up because as you guys know, I majored in journalism, sports broadcast, but I also have minors in sociology and Black studies. So understanding the nuances of sports culture and our regular societal culture is super important to me. The impacts of her being a woman and her being a Black woman are all tied into her experiences as an athlete.
Absolutely.
She grinded to be the best athlete she could be.
Yes.
No matter what that looked like, no matter what that entails. And to this day, she still gets some of the flack for being quote unquote aggressive.
Right.
When she's out there trying to win. I'm sorry, did we come to Wimbledon to lose?
Right.
Like,
I'm not coming here. I'm not coming here to shake hands and I'm coming
to flash smiles and wear coordinating matching skirt outfit. Like, is that what we were doing here for, or did we come to win?
Right.
So that attitude, that sort of mentality that she had is something that she brought to every single match that she did.
Right.
But she always gets the flack for it, part of it being the identity she occupies, but also just like as a Black woman, period, there's the notions around being aggressive and things
stigma. Yeah,
exactly. However, I don't really understand what other way you're supposed to be when you're trying to win.
Exactly.
More than 20 Grand Slams. I'm sorry. When you have a daughter and a husband in the stands who's like, that's my mom, that's my wife. You know how much of a bragging right that is? You can go to Starbucks and just be like, oh, by the way, I'm married to Serena Williams.
Serena, husband? Yeah, free? Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Free.
I don't pay. Yeah, thank you.
Oh,
right.
Thank you very much.
Well, listen, Sania, this was great, man. It was a pleasure having you on the show. Let everybody know where they can find you and what you have going on in the future.
Absolutely. First of all, thank you guys so much for having me on the show. It was truly fun. My cheeks are hurting because I'm laughing. But the ones in my face. And you can find me at Sania Blu, SANIA BLU, no E. I decided to jazz it up a little bit. I think I'm really saying this because I think my name is so different. If you type it in Google, I'm not big dog yet. I don't even have like a blue check mark yet, but
you'll
get
there
all my videos and my Instagram, and all that jazz. I also have a clothing line, 𝐤𝐸𝐬𝐷 Design. So
nice.
You can find us on 𝐤𝐸𝐬𝐷.faith or 𝐤𝐸𝐬𝐷 Designs on all of our social media. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it about me.
You have an incredibly bright future.
Yes.
Thank
You really
you
do.
so
You have an
much.
incredibly bright future.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. I hope so. My dad's still wanting a Ferrari.
So
don't worry.
fine.
He'll get
Trust
it.
me.
He'll get
My
it.
dad
He'll-
wants a Porsche.
You guys will definitely get there, man. You know, I can see the hard work in you. I can see the passion that you have for this. So, you know, we're definitely going to be looking out for you and as you continue to ascend through the ranks. So, you know, good luck on everything.
Thank you so much and best wishes to you all. I hope you all are safe and healthy and well. But I had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So,
Appreciate it.
I am Barry Grant Jr., host of the All Even Podcast. Down at the bottom is Matt, the great 𝐤𝐸𝐬𝐿. On the other end, we have 𝐧𝐭𝐞𝐬𝐬, host of Guido's Gridiron Blitz.
Yeah, who
Whatever.
cares?
We'll see
Hi,
you
Kier.
next week.